Hello and welcome. My name is Roger Markarian. I want to welcome you to my program Inspired by Speaking. I'm a DTM and have been speaking for the last 15 years. My vision is to help individuals who have challenges writing and speaking. In this program, you will hear others' inspired messages. Throughout this video, you will hear tips, tricks, and ideas to become a better speaker and writer. Allow what you hear to resonate so you can take action. Learn from those who are taking action right now. Thanks for being here.
Hey guys, I'm so thrilled to have this guest with me today. I have known Scott for over 20 years. He is qualified to play in the California State Amateur Golf Championship. He has run a marathon in just over 6-minute mile pace. Wow, Scott, that's huge. He retired at the age of 48, saying, "My only goal of going to work was not to have to go to work." Nice job, Scott. That's awesome. He's been in Toastmasters for over 33 years and earned the highest distinction that the organization can bestow. He is a distinguished Toastmaster. He won more speech contests than he can recount, and he is well known in Toastmasters as someone that can be counted on to deliver. That's for sure. I do know Scott personally, and he definitely does that. He describes himself as just an average guy who has accomplished a few above average things. Love that, Scott. I am so pleased to have a conversation with my good friend, Scott Nutter. Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great, Roger. Thank you for bestowing this honor on me to call me up and chat a bit.
Well, there's no doubt I would bring you in. You obviously have a tremendous amount of experience. You have lived the Toastmaster dream for 33 years, and I do definitely know how you've personally touched, helped, and mentored so many people along the path, which is awesome. I thought you would be a perfect candidate, and I'm sure there's somebody listening who might even know you, for God's sakes, out there. But I do know that having you on will make such a huge difference. Scott, let me ask you, why did you join Toastmasters, if you can remember that?
I actually can. So what happened is when I went through college, I got a bachelor's degree in business, but I did a minor in communication studies. And as part of that, there was a lot of public speaking. And I just remember enjoying the classes. So when I graduated from college, the work environment was like 81, interest rates were high, the unemployment was high. And I just ended up being a carpenter. And I say it was a great thing. It wasn't my thing, but I just ended up being in the trades for 6 years or so. And then I got into the mortgage business, and I had to make sales calls and those kind of things and deal with real estate agents. And the local real estate board was starting a Toastmasters club right then, which was at that time, Toastmasters was about public speaking. And I remember liking it. So I joined so I could do public speaking again, but also do some business contacts.
You have an interesting story. I do know when you were in the trade, Scott. Do you want to just share that little tidbit since you did bring it up? I think it's a fun thing to bring up.
My goodness, I was around all these guys that they just enjoyed. There would be just a concrete slab there in the morning, and then frame the entire house in a day, and I'd be part of it, of course. And then you'd have a beer at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, leaning over the truck, and they'd be tugging at their belt, going, "Oh, I built that." I never got that "I built that" thing, but one day it was over 100 degrees, and me and the contractor were framing a duplex or just a throw together rental house. I mean, just we call them dingbats. And one of the things you do is when they bring in the trusses, the rafter tails are not cut to length. So you go out there and you hang 1 foot over, and you have the saw outside your foot, and you just go and you lean over with a skill saw, and you snip them all off. And I snipped every one of them off, and then got down. I'm tired. I rolled up the saw, and that's a process of doing the extension cord and all that. And then my boss looked up and goes, "You missed one." And I looked at it, and I go, "I'll get it in the morning." He goes, "No, you'll get it right now." So I unrolled the saw. I wasn't thinking. got up there, I'm kind of ticked off that I had to do this when I could have done it first thing in the morning. And instead of hanging the saw on the outside, I put my foot on the outside and ran the skill saw between my feet. And in that second, when I basically cut that rafter tail right out from under my foot, it's like the coyote in the Roadrunner. You get a half a second to go, you dumb bleep. And then I fell right, and it's all dirt, except for where this rafter tail was, right over the flat work that they had poured that morning that led into the house, the front door. I land flat on my back with a skill saw landing on me. It hurt, but I was younger and it wasn't too bad. But
what was that, a 10-foot drop?
Oh, probably 8. Yeah, but 8 foot right on my back, and yeah, I was lucky. But I didn't think of myself as lucky. I was just ticked off that I had to go back up there and do it. And I was just that's the thing. We make a lot of mistakes in life when we are out of process. And so, when I cut, 35, 40, however many rafter tails, I was in process. Step, snip, step, snip, step, snip. And then I had to go do that one, and I wasn't in process anymore. And that's where we make a lot of mistakes, is when we fall out of process.
Oh gosh, I completely agree. Well, how do I know that story? I heard you tell that in one of the speeches, and I absolutely laughed and I laughed and I laughed because it was so fun to hear you talk about how you fell off the roof. You just talked about process, and I love that, which segues to the next question I have. There's obviously a process in writing. I know that you are very skilled in writing. Let's talk a little bit about that piece, just because I know how important that is. Obviously one component is delivering, but the other part is writing. You're a very accomplished writer. Share with us, what is some of the process that you go through?
Well, I'm glad you asked this, Roger, because this is what I see as people get very troubled about the writing process. Is I think they try to make it perfect when they're writing it. And really the process is you have to put the judge or the critic that has a place in the process, but it's not at the beginning. So at the beginning, you just, you decide, that there's something you want to speak about or write about, whatever. And then you just write down everything you could possibly think of on the topic, with no judgment, no critique, crazy stuff even. It doesn't matter. You're just getting it all out there. Hopefully you're getting more material out there than you'll ever speak about. But you don't judge at that point. So you get all these ideas out, rather than trying to write something and go, I'm going here, and then this point, this point, this point. Now, eventually you'll get to there, but at the beginning, it's about basically filling a swimming pool. You just fill the whole thing up with water, and then later on, you're going to filter the water.
Scott, so what have you noticed about other people in that situation? What do they do in your view? Share with us what you've noticed. Why does it become discouraging?
I just noticed that they struggle to make it perfect from the beginning, or make it understandable from the beginning. Trust me, if you saw my original notes on any speech, you would look and go, this person's insane. What does that even have to do with what he spoke about if you saw my original notes? But that's part of the process. But the problem is people are trying to create and edit at the same time. And we're not dialed that way. Create first. Throw it all out there. Everything you can think about. Just ideas. And give yourself X amount of time. Depends on how important the speech is or what you're doing. But throw everything out there that you could speak on, and then leave that there for a while. And your while is different than mine, and different than, maybe you could go right to it. But at least at first, just throw it all out there. Everything you can think that you might want to do, and then go away. And then you come back, and now it's time to invite the critic or the judge or the editor in and say, what are the best ideas here? What's entertaining, because I think a speech should be entertaining, but also makes a point. Because, if you're going to speak, there should be, stories are great, but there should be always at the end be a moral to the story. And so one of the things, even before the creative process that I talked about is I do like what Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. So, if there's a topic I want to speak on, okay, that's my vanity, right? I want to speak on it. How do I make my vanity into something that somebody wants to hear? So what's my end point? So that's kind of the idea. Then you go into that creative process I talked about, and then you come back and take the best of all that junk that you threw together, or pearls of wisdom, and take the best of the best. But the madness is to try to write and edit at the same time. That I can't do it. I can't imagine that anybody does it. I'm sure somebody does, but
I think that's how most people start, Scott. I really believe when people sit down and write their first speech, second speech, I think that's exactly what they do. In fact, I think you hit the nail right on the head. They are so busy looking at the first couple sentences and they lock up because the flow is already being critiqued by themselves, so they never get past the fourth or fifth line.
Yeah, and Roger, the fun part to me is that part of just letting your brain dump. Whatever. It doesn't matter if it makes no sense or if it's totally stupid. It's just you and a piece of paper. And I just find that extremely entertaining to myself to we have this huge warehouse of information up here, or thoughts and everything. And it's just magnificent to me to see what comes out of this beautiful mind that I have, even though a lot of it's garbage, but just to see what comes out, and then, you make a mess, and then the editing is cleaning it up. It's just like life. You make messes, then you clean it up. And that's the beauty.
Yeah, I love that. Great analogy. You're right. It is like a mess, and you do have to clean it up. And that is part of the challenge too. You have to make something out of what you just put down. Great points. Scott, I also know that you've written for years. I know that you're a writer. I know that you spend time writing, even if it's just a word or two. Share with us a little bit about that process. What inspires you just to do that?
Well, what really inspires me is life. It's not a person or whatever. It's just a certain topic will come up, and I'll think, that might be interesting to speak on. And, I might be in my car, I might be playing golf, I might be whatever. And whenever that comes up, I try to at least write down a couple of words that I can go back to later on that can link back to, why was it I thought that was interesting? Because something in the moment, could have been, I'm behind a person in line at the grocery store who doesn't know how to use their credit card, right? And then you go, shouldn't you know how to do that by now? and not being critical, or you can turn it into a stand-up comedy line if you want, but then you think a little deeper. Okay, so why doesn't that person get it? And then you go, that person's not alone. There's other people that don't get it. Well, why don't they get it? And you start thinking in those terms, not that I'm better or whatever, because I'm sure that I'm that person in line that somebody behind me thinks about too. So it's not degrading anybody. It's just, why is it that this person doesn't get it? Okay, that could be an inspiration. Things like that.
Yeah, I love it. Scott, you obviously been with Toastmasters for many years. You will have a lot of techniques. Share with us another technique.
The thoughts on paper, it's about giving yourself permission to put your thoughts on paper. It gets back to that critic thing. Just, it doesn't matter. A thought came up, put it on the paper. If it doesn't work, you'll edit it out later. Because the thing is, once you put that thought out on paper, that's now gone from your mind, and it clears room for another thought to come in. And you put that one on paper. And then the third thought comes in. And what it might be is the third thought might be the gem. The first one might have sucked. The second one might have been okay. But the third one's the good one. But you couldn't have gotten there unless you expunged the first and second one.
Agreed. Totally agree.
It's clearing the mind to get to the good stuff. And the good stuff, it's kind of like, when we do jokes, it's usually in threes, on a punchline. There's this guy, then that guy, and then the third guy's the joke, right? Well, the third idea is probably the best one. So it kind of falls along that.
No, I love it. What great information that anyone can use. I love that. Lots of good nuggets in there, Scott. Hey, Scott, obviously you've heard so many great stories. Share with us a fun story, perhaps that you had maybe heard or learned in Toastmasters.
Oh, well, I go back to this one. Is when our club first started, we were told we needed to do a speech contest, and it was a humorous speech contest. None of us knew even what that was, other than, okay, I got to write a funny speech. And I don't know if anybody else even competed, but I won at our club. So I go to the next level, right? And, I think I got something pretty good. Well, the guy that spoke before me was a guy named Merv Jerzak. I'll never forget it. I'm sitting there, and he is just tearing me up. I am not someone that laughs easily. I'm a tough audience. He's got me in stitches, right? And I haven't spoken yet. And then it dawns on me. I'm competing against this. And right then, and I wasn't being defeatist. I just went, I can't compete with that. And then I went, and this is something early on. I said to myself, I don't have the material that he has, right? But what I can do is sell what I got as hard as I can. And you and I like a term, but this is where it came from. When I went up to speak, to compete against him, I just let it rip. Every gesture was, exaggerated. I went all out because I had nothing to lose, because I lost before I got out of my seat. Like I said, wasn't being defeatist. It turns out Merv had won like the regional competition the year before. I didn't know it at the time, but he was really, really good.
I'll say.
And because he was so good, it gave me permission to just let myself go. And I've never forgot that. That was huge. It was just a huge part of my learning thing is, you never know how far you can go until you go too far. Like, if I'm hearing this gesture's right, okay, most people wouldn't even do this. Well, I would have been doing this and this and this, and that was probably too much. But you know what? Most people don't go even to here. They stay here, right? And I have learned, if you want to correct a behavior, if you're here, you have to go here to get to here. So you got to go too far and then dial it back, to what's really your sweet spot.
How long ago was that, Scott? Just out of curiosity.
33 years ago, 32 years ago.
Oh,
like I said, it was an early. It was a really early experience in Toastmasters for me, and it was wonderful. And he's a Facebook friend of mine, and we still do a little contact here and there. As a matter of fact, when I won a speech contest once, I tried to incorporate him to coach me to the next level. He was just too busy, because he was that good that he had plenty of other. He had a job, of course, but he had other clients and stuff and all that. But he was a pro, man. Just watching him work taught me a lot.
Yeah, what a great experience. Truly a great experience.
I'd like to thank my guest today, Scott Nutter. Scott Nutter gave us a tremendous amount of wisdom and information regarding how to write a speech, how to put your ideas together, and how to let it rip. Scott, it was fantastic. I really appreciate you being here today. If you'd like to get a hold of either Scott or myself, by all means, reach out to us on the email, inspiredbyspeaking@gmail.com. Please don't hesitate to like us, be a subscriber, and don't be afraid to give us feedback. If you'd like to be interviewed on the channel, by all means, reach out to me. Here are a few nuggets that Scott left us with. You have a great day.